Ji-Hoon, my son.
I am not your son, you dirty beggar. Get out of here. Take this money and leave me alone. I am not your son.
The rain hammered Seoul like bullets against concrete, but the crowd outside the Gangnam Financial Tower didn't move. They were vultures waiting for blood. News helicopters circled overhead, their searchlights cutting through the storm, all hunting for one man, Ji-Hoon Kang, the ghost of Busan, Korea's most wanted. When his black Mercedes finally pulled up, flanked by armored SUVs, the crowd surged forward like a tidal wave. Camera flashes erupted, reporters screamed questions, police struggled to hold the line, and somewhere in that chaos, a frail voice cut through the noise like a knife to the throat. "Ji-Hoon, my son." The bodyguards parted instinctively, and there she was, a woman so thin she seemed made of paper and prayers, her clouded eyes searching blindly through the crowd. Her hands reached out, trembling, grasping at nothing but hope. She wore a stained hanbok that might have been beautiful 30 years ago, and her feet were bare despite the freezing rain. "It's me, your Oma. I knew you'd come home." The crowd fell silent. Every camera swung toward Ji-Hoon's face, waiting for the moment. Would Korea's most ruthless crime lord show weakness? Would the man who'd ordered the execution of 12 rival bosses in a single night finally reveal his humanity? Ji-Hoon's jaw tightened, his eyes, dark as burnt coal, fixed on the old woman with an expression that made seasoned reporters step back. When he spoke, his voice carried the temperature of a grave. "Who let this filthy beggar through?" He gestured dismissively, his Rolex catching the light. "Get this trash away from me before I lose my temper." The moment's smile didn't falter. If anything, it grew wider, more desperate. "Ji-Hoon, it's me. Don't you remember? I used to sing you to sleep. I said, move her." Ji-Hoon pulled out a thick wad of cash and threw it at her face. Bills scattered across the wet pavement like fallen leaves. "Take your charity and disappear. If I see your ugly face again, I'll have my men dump you in the Han River with the rest of the garbage." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. One reporter actually dropped her microphone. The old woman knelt slowly, picking up the wet bills with shaking fingers, still smiling, still whispering, "My good boy, my good boy." Ji-Hoon turned away, his coat billowing behind him like a shadow made of flesh. As his bodyguards ushered him toward the building, he didn't look back, not once. The crowd parted in a disgusted silence, and the old woman was left kneeling in the rain, clutching money that felt like stones in her hands. But did you notice what the cameras didn't catch? The way Ji-Hoon's right hand trembled as he reached for the door, the single moment where his reflection in the glass showed a face carved from pure agony before the mask slammed back down. Inside the car 20 minutes later, Ji-Hoon sat in perfect stillness. His driver knew better than to speak. The only sound was the rain drumming on the roof, and Ji-Hoon's breathing, controlled, measured, like a man trying not to drown. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Boss, the wolves were watching, 3 of them, but they left after the show. They think she's nobody." Ji-Hoon closed his eyes. His hands, the same hands that had built an empire on blood and fear, were shaking so badly he had to clench them into fists. A memory flashed unbidden. He was 7 years old, starving, watching his mother choose between paying rent or buying rice. She'd chosen rent. They'd eaten paste from flour and water for a week. "I'll be a big man, Oma," he'd promised her, his child's voice full of fire. "So big that you'll never be hungry again." 23 years later, he was the biggest monster in Korea, and she was still hungry, but now he couldn't even touch her without signing her death warrant. The intelligence report sitting on his lap told him everything he already knew. The prosecution had finally built their case. The Blue House wanted him gone. His assets would be frozen by Friday. His empire, built brick by bloody brick over 2 decades, would crumble within a month. They were calling it Operation Clean Sweep, and Ji-Hoon was the dirt they intended to wash away. He had 3 days, maybe 4 if his lawyers worked miracles. "Drive to Attorney Kim's office," he said quietly. "The one in Itaewon. Use the back roads." Attorney Kim was a weasel of a man who'd helped Ji-Hoon launder his first $1,000,000 won. He owed Ji-Hoon 3 life debts, once for money, once for protection, and once for keeping his daughter's overdose out of the papers. When Ji-Hoon walked into his cramped office at 2 a.m., Kim nearly had a heart attack.
"I need you to create something that can't be traced, can't be frozen, and can't be touched by law enforcement," Ji-Hoon said, sliding a briefcase across the desk. "I have 9 billion won in clean assets. I want them transferred into a legal trust under a specific name." Kim's eyes widened. "Boss, if you're trying to hide money, it's not for me." Ji-Hoon pulled out a worn photograph, a young woman with kind eyes and calloused hands holding a baby boy. "It's for her, and it needs to look completely legitimate. Can you do it, or should I find someone with more courage?" Kim studied the photo, then nodded slowly. "I'll need 3 days. You have 2. That night, Ji-Hoon did something he hadn't done in 15 years. He drove to Bongcheon-dong, to the shantytown where rust and poverty grew like weeds through concrete. Her shack was exactly as he remembered, a patchwork of corrugated metal and rotting wood that somehow still stood against the wind. He parked 3 blocks away and walked. Every shadow was a potential enemy. Every sound made his hand drift toward the gun in his jacket. But he reached her door at 3:47 a.m., and the world was quiet except for his heartbeat. The door was unlocked. Of course it was. She'd always trusted people too much. Inside, the shack was smaller than his bathroom, a single electric burner, a bedroll on the floor, walls covered in newspaper for insulation, and there, on a crooked shelf, was a photograph of him at 8 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, the frame held together with tape and hope. She was asleep on the bedroll, so small she barely made a bump under the thin blanket. In her hands, clutched against her chest like a talisman, was another photo, his high school graduation picture, before everything went wrong. Ji-Hoon knelt beside her. Up close, he could see how much she'd aged. Her hair had gone completely white. Her skin was thin as rice paper. But she was smiling in her sleep, and for a moment, he was 7 years old again, believing his mother could fix anything. His hand moved on its own, fixing her blanket, tucking it around her shoulders the way she used to do for him. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden hairpin, cheap, simple, bought with his first honest paycheck from a construction job when he was 16. He'd given it to her once. She'd cried and called him her prince. He'd found it in a pawn shop 3 years ago. She'd sold it to buy medicine. He placed it on the shelf next to the photograph, then stood. His shadow fell across her sleeping face, and for one terrible moment, he wanted to wake her, wanted to tell her everything, wanted to be her son again instead of the monster he'd become. But monsters don't get redemptions. They get cages. He left without a sound. The next morning, Ji-Hoon made his final play. He called his most trusted lieutenant, a man named Dae-jung who'd been with him since the beginning, and gave him specific instructions. "The police will raid the Songpa warehouse tomorrow at dawn. I want you to leak our location at the Songbuk safe house instead." "Boss, that'll put you right in their path." "That's the point. When they come, I want you to make sure the old woman from yesterday is at the station. Tell her there's money for her, a government program, whatever lie works." "Why?" "Because I need witnesses when I spit in her face one last time." Dae-jung was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Boss, you know she's really your—" "I know what she is. Just do it." The arrest happened exactly as planned. Ji-Hoon led the police on a chase through Songbuk, deliberately crashing his car within sight of the station, surrendering with his hands up and a smile that made prosecutors nervous. The media circus was instant and enormous, and there, in the crowd behind the police barricades, was his mother. She called out to him, "Ji-Hoon-ah," and every camera swung toward her, then back to him. The nation was watching. The world was watching. This was his last chance to make sure nobody ever connected her to his empire. Ji-Hoon looked directly at her, and what he did next would haunt Korean television for years. He gathered saliva in his mouth and spat on the ground between them. "That old hag is still following me?" He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Detective Park, do me a favor. Throw her in a state shelter so I don't have to see her ugly face when I get out. She's been stalking me for years. It's pathetic." The detective, an honest man named Park Min-soo, looked between Ji-Hoon and the old woman, frowning. "Sir, we can't just—" "Then I'll file harassment charges. She's clearly mentally ill. Get her some help. Consider it my one good deed before prison."
The old woman just smiled. Tears streamed down her weathered face, but she was smiling, whispering words the cameras couldn't catch. My good boy, still protecting his Emma. Ji-Hoon was sentenced to life in prison 4 months later. The trial was a spectacle. Prosecutors presented evidence of murder, extortion, human trafficking, money laundering. Ji-Hoon sat through it all with the same cold mask, never showing emotion, never breaking. What the court didn't know was that for 10 years, half of every won he'd earned had been carefully laundered into legitimate businesses under shell corporations that eventually fed into a trust. Attorney Kim had worked miracles. The trust was untouchable, hidden behind layers of legal complexity that would take investigators decades to unravel. And it was all in her name. 1 week after sentencing, Attorney Kim visited the shack in Bangcheondong. The old woman answered the door, squinting through her failing eyes, clutching her wooden hairpin. "Are you Mrs. Kang Sun-Hee?" Kim asked gently. "Yes. Do I know you?" "No, ma'am, but your son hired me." Kim held out a thick envelope. "I have some documents for you to sign." Her hands trembled as she took the papers. Kim explained slowly, carefully. There was a house in Jeonju, in the countryside, with a garden and fruit trees. There was a bank account with enough money to live comfortably for 3 lifetimes. There was a medical fund for her eyes, her arthritis, everything. All legal, all clean, all hers. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Ji-Hoon is in prison. He said terrible things." "Ma'am," Kim's voice cracked slightly, "he's been building this for you for 10 years. Every deal, every dollar, half went here. He couldn't tell you, couldn't visit you, couldn't even look at you without putting you in danger." He handed her a final envelope. "He asked me to give you this after sentencing. I'm sorry it took so long." The letter was written on cheap paper and handwriting that hadn't changed since he was a boy. "Emma, I'm sorry I had to be a monster so the world wouldn't hurt you. I pushed you away so no one would know you are the only heart I have left. Every cruel word was a shield. Every insult was a prayer that you'd be safe. Do you remember when I was 7 and promised to make you proud? I failed. I became exactly what you raised me not to be. But even monsters can love their mothers. The house is yours. The money is yours. Please eat well, sleep warm, buy yourself nice things. Fix your eyes so you can see the garden I planted for you. And please, if you can, forget you have a son. Forget me so you can finally live in peace. Your Ji-Hoon." Sun-Hee stood in her new garden 3 months later, wearing a clean hanbok, her eyes clear from surgery, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. In her hands was the wooden hairpin, the only thing she'd kept from the shack. The television in the kitchen was playing the evening news. They were doing a special on Ji-Hoon Kang. 5 years into his life sentence, he'd been stabbed by a rival gang member in prison. He survived, but barely. The reporter called him a monster, a demon, a cautionary tale. Sun-Hee smiled, tears streaming down her newly clear eyes, and whispered to the screen, "My son, You were always a good boy. She'd never forget him, never stop visiting him every month, sitting across from him in the prison visiting room, chatting about her garden while he listened in silence, his eyes, those dark, burning eyes, finally at peace. Because sometimes the greatest love looks like cruelty, sometimes protection wears the mask of hatred, and sometimes the biggest monster in the room has the smallest, most fragile heart. The question is, if you had to choose between showing love and ensuring safety, which would you choose? Could you be cruel to the one person who matters most if it meant they'd survive? Drop your thoughts below, because Ji-Hoon's story might be fiction, but the choice is terrifyingly real.